Hi. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mike Todd. I'm the mayor here in the city of Grand Valley. So I know it's kind of a cold, unseasonable night in October, so I thank everyone for braving that and coming out before we get hit with some kind of weather advisory. So thanks again for coming out and taking time. This is a very important, possible step for Grand Valley in the future. So I want to take this time to introduce the elected officials who are here in attendance, so that way if you have any questions at the end or during it, you can kind of seek them out and they can help you out. So I think most of them are sitting over here. So if I can have them all stand so I don't miss anybody and we can wave there, we can see what we got. We got on the end, we have Alderman West, and we have Alderman Stratton next to her, Alderman Cleaver, Alderman Headley, and Alderman Totten is roaming around somewhere back there in the back. There's his women back there. So, if you have any questions at the end, you can seek them out and we can help you. At this time, I want to introduce our Assistant City Administrator, Teresa Ozenbaugh, and she will take it from here.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. I just want to take a quick minute to introduce our team before I get us going. We have here with us tonight our architects, our construction manager at risk, and then city staff as well. And so over on this side, we'll start with Christy Beatty. Christy and Jim Stufflebeam here on the other end are both with staff design. And then in the middle, we have Mike Hewley and Doug Stockman with Helix. I'll introduce our acting city administrator, Ken Murphy, over here on the corner. And he is accompanied by a lot of our department heads and community partners. And then Chris Hess, that just walked up here on the end, is with McCallum Gordon. So why are you all here tonight? Obviously, Grand Valley has had unprecedented growth over the years, and we have definitely reached a point where our city facilities, we've outgrown them, and they're starting to have some wear and tear needs that need to be addressed. Facilities need some improvements. So how did we get to this point? Many of you are probably very familiar that several years ago the city started acquiring property down at the corner of Snybar and Buckner-Tarsney Road, the Snybar Farms property, and to date we have just under 50 acres at that site that the city owns and is looking to put a potential community campus on. So that's why we're all here. As you know, the city acquired this property originally to preserve the history. That's a property that is just rich in history, agricultural history. Way back when, there was lots of partnerships with universities and researchers, and lots of important discoveries in vaccines and animal medicine and other things were made right there on that site. So the city wanted to preserve that history. And from that, in 2014, we had meetings similar to this one, where we had our comprehensive plan. And that was created, and in that plan, part of the outcome of that plan was to take that site and master plan that out to be a future civic campus, which is how we got here 5 years later. And resident input, of course, really drives the decision making for that. And so that's also why we're here tonight. And what we've talked about over the last several years is not just making that a civic campus, but a community campus and a place where residents can have a central location to go to, have their civic needs met, needs such as the library, parks and rec, and other community partners as well. And so that's what you'll see and what we'll be talking about in detail tonight is the master plan for those sites. And also resident input has been gathered. If you'll remember, in 2018 we did a community survey as well. And the top 5 areas that came out of that survey that the city needed to focus on over the next 2 years included maintenance of city streets, sidewalks, and infrastructure, effectiveness of community planning, enforcement of city codes and ordinances, police and public safety services, and also parks and recreation. And 3 of those we really have been working on when going through this community campus process. That's, of course, parks and rec, the police, and then the community planning. But if you'll have time at the end here to go visit the boards, kind of over where Chief Beal's standing, we have a board there where we've also just shared, just so you know, the ways we've been addressing those top 5 things that were identified in that community survey throughout the past year and what we were planning for the future. And how we got here to date. So earlier this year, we contracted with SAP Design to enter into the master planning phase for the project. And then we brought on McCallum Gordon, who's been working with us as our construction manager at risk. So should this issue go forward, they will be helping, working with us to make the building actually happen. And in the master plan phase, this plan actually lays out the long-term vision for the property and for the future of the property. And so that's really what we're here to get your input on tonight, is how you want to see that master plan turn out. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim, I believe, who's going to go into a little more detail about the master plan.
Okay, great. Thanks, Teresa. We're going to give you some information and show you the site plan. Some of you have already seen those up here. We're going to explain a little bit about how we got there. Oh, first, you want to ask this question? Yeah. Okay, yes. How many of you already know about this project before you came here tonight? Okay, use your Mentimeter app. There's three questions. One is, did you already know about the history of the farm? Yeah. Second one, the city comprehensive plan. Are you familiar with that plan? It was done in 2014. And the last, the proposed community campus, which is explained in these three site plans. So individually, respond to whether you already knew about this before you came tonight. And responses should be, yeah, you choose this little slide bar on your phone. So how much you already knew about this. It'll take just a minute, just another few seconds to let you weigh in. Okay. In general, it looks like you folks a lot of you knew about this already. Well, our hope is that you'll know a lot bit more about it, and all of you will know about it by the time you leave. So we're going to ask you to help us choose one of these site plans, or at least to weigh in terms of what your preference is as to which one of these you think might fit Green Valley in your city best. So to do that, we're going to walk you through a little bit of how we got to this point. As Teresa mentioned, we were hired in January along with Helix Architects. We've been working with the city for several months to sort out the needs, some of the options, to get familiar with the site. So we've gone through a lot of information and building upon the information that was already established in the comprehensive plan, which I mentioned was done in 2014. How many of you all were involved in any of the community meetings that were done at that time? You remember that? A few of you? There was one meeting where there were like 400 folks who showed up. That was a great meeting. This established the plan and gave the city the roadmap, if you will, going forward. One of the features of that plan, as you see in this site plan here, was the determination that that site where the house is, the Nelson or the Snybar Farm, would be a good location for a city campus. So we're basically building on what was established and what you folks or your city told your city leadership at that time. A couple of things in the bullet points up here. The city is growing, and in, I think it's 2035, the projection is to be about 35,000. We're hitting a kind of a middle of the road, 20 to 25,000 by 2028, somewhere in that range, and that's what this is being planned for. So there is some expansion built into all of these plans and the designs going forward. Next slide. This is your existing site. And Teresa alluded to this a while ago, that there are a lot of deficiencies with the existing site and the existing city hall, police, and rec center. Biggest concern is they're just too small. This city has outgrown these facilities. The programming process that we've gone through, right sizing, for example, City Hall needs spaces right now that are twice the space that they have currently. There are some key people who have their office in the hallway. If any of you have been in City Hall and seen that, city clerk is in a storage room that also has the servers, the electronic and digital equipment in it. So they're really jam-packed in there. Even the municipal court needs a lot more space, just to handle the families, the pre-court, post-court meetings, and so forth. Police station, likewise, way undersized. The Sally Court, which is where they bring detainees in and lock the gates behind it, that isn't open. It does not have a roof. It's not fully enclosed. That's an issue. The space for booking and so forth. So they're really cramped. Space for evidence contained and holding and so forth. Really, seriously overcrowded in that building currently. The building is wearing out, as well as the rec center. Your Parks and Rec director, Shannon Davies, his office is about the size of a closet, a broom closet. and there's 2 people in there. So really packed and not able to provide the services that your city and community really deserve. The next slide. And you all know about the history. We've spoken to this, so we won't spend a lot of time here, but this is important to your community. This was a nationally known beef cattle research facility. A lot of people came here from all over the world, actually, to learn about the techniques for how to do this. And Mr. Nelson was instrumental in leading that research and this farm and this facility. So we want to pay homage to that because this would be the site for it. Somehow celebrate and pay respect to that. Next slide. This is the site. This diagram is a little different than the diagrams you've seen over here. North is up on this large diagram. Buckner Tarsley is on the right, and Snybar Road is at the bottom. A couple of views of the house and the site. Go to the next slide, please. This is an analysis of that site. This is turned now. North is to the right, so hopefully we're not confusing you too much. But you see in the center there's a large green circle. That's where the house is currently. The other large green circles are kind of open space on the site. We want to respect that, keep that as pristine as possible. There's several trees on the site. There's a red snake-looking shape through the middle of the site. That's an embankment or a steep slope. We want to take advantage of those slopes as best we can. Next slide. The 3 schemes you see up here are organized around 3 key concepts. The building committee and all the folks that Teresa introduced have been working on this for several months, as we said, and looked at several different ways of doing this and narrowed it down to 3 we want to present to you tonight. One is what we call the civic landmark. You could call it civic arc because it is based on this arc shape, which is kind of following the slope of the land towards that part of the site. Then the 3 orange circles represent where we would put the major buildings. Police and City Hall and the Municipal Court would be in one building, library and rec center. And trying to keep those in parts of the site that are the least disruptive to those open areas, to trees and so forth. Okay, next slide. The second scheme, B, call it the Rural Tapestry. We put a little picture up here to show you if you can see this. This reminds us of a rural or a suburban layout that you would see from an airplane, but kind of a grid-like development of different parcels and sizes, not a clean regular grid, but an irregular grid. The buildings would be located again in the orange area. The street is not quite as important here in terms of organizing. It's more like a campus in a way, more like a college campus. Okay, next. And the third scheme, we call it the country lane because it kind of meanders the main street or collecting road through the site. And the buildings located accordingly. The green in the middle again is the house, so that's kind of more central in this scheme than some of the others perhaps. But again, trying to keep the buildings in locations where they have the least impact on some of those special features. This one, however, we are trying to use that embankment and have an opportunity, actually in all these schemes, to have like what you might call a walkout basement situation where part of the building is down, but has the ability to walk out to the back for services or pools, staff parking and so forth. So we may be able to take advantage of the slopes to do that. Okay, and then summarizing the 3 schemes, remember these because we're going to ask you about this later. The civic landmark based on the arc, the Rural Tapestry, which is kind of a campus, semi-grid-like setting, and then the country lane, which is a little more of a meandering organization. So we're going to walk you through these sites in more detail. We're going to let Doug do that and give you some more information.
Good evening, everybody. Okay, so first I'm going to start off by just describing some of the consistencies or the common thread that you're going to see amongst all of these schemes, because they do have something that's in common between each one. In each case, you're going to see an entry point on Buckner Tarsley, which essentially represents the very top of the hill. And this is important for safety. We want to make sure that as you're entering and leaving the site, that it's clear view from both down the hill this way and down the hill the other way. The other part that's going to be consistent amongst all the schemes is that you're pretty much going to see City Hall and the police station located close to Snybar. Chief calls it leaving hot.
Leaving out. We want that as far away from residential.
Yeah. And then you'll also see some consistencies of entry points along Snybar. Some may have 2, some may have 3, but there'll be 2 points of being able to get in and out of the site in every scheme. You'll also see some ball fields that will show up in every scheme, and that's one of the lowest points of the site. This is just enough space to sort of, at this moment, from a master planning perspective, just to show some little league ball fields, some regular baseball fields, and potentially a soccer field or a football field. You'll also see these kind of beige-ish areas. These are intended to be places without trees, to be more like a walking trail. And then you'll also, as Jim mentioned, you'll consistently see some iteration of where the house is currently located, and we might be approaching this in a couple different ways. So what's different is that how we're arranging the site, where we're placing all the buildings. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through that very briefly, and then later on we'll have stations in which you can ask us more specific questions as well. So in the civic landmark, as Jim described, we're really trying to tie everything together through this kind of arc. And it's a drive that brings you into the site, from both Snybar and Snybar and Buckner Tarsi. And then along that drive, there are many places where you can pull off and park, and that allows you then to access either the city hall, the police station at this location, the library, as you move around the site to the west, and in between the rec center is the house, or in between the rec center and the library is where the house is currently located. Here, in this scenario, as in many of the others, City Hall and the police station kind of sit on that ridge that Jim talked about earlier. So there's a steep drop off in grade. So this sort of represents the high point, and this is the low point. So this allows city staff to park in and down below, as well as the police to come in and out. Over on the opposite side, you have the rec center, which actually has the outdoor pool that would sit immediately behind there. And in each case, you'll see these kind of dashed lines, and they represent the potential for expansion for each of the buildings, so we're allowing enough space for that to happen as well. And then just real briefly, we built some 3D modeling so that you can get somewhat of an idea of what this might look like. And obviously populating, you can see the woods here. In every case, I forgot to mention this, we've also created a walking and running trail that lines the perimeter of the site, as well as then comes in and interfaces with different parts. And in some cases, we've also created the opportunity for little amphitheaters, potentially for some outdoor music and gathering in the summer. Another kind of lower view. Most of these buildings are going to be 1.5 stories. So there'll be more kind of a larger footprint. The rec center will probably be the only building that is truly a double height space, much like this gym here, so that you can play indoor basketball and volleyball. Okay, so moving on to the Rural Tapestry. As Jim mentioned, we were sort of inspired by the local surroundings of the area, and we really wanted to try and find a way to blend that idea of sort of a gridded agriculture in the city with the natural terrain, so you see this combination of grid and curvilinear pieces. And in this case, as I said before, similar entry points, similar ways for the police to kind of move in and out of the site. But in this case, you're actually pulling off into a series of little tiny parking lots that are more secluded from one another. And what we're really trying to do here is to create more of a campus. So sort of a small college, if you will. So you can actually move in between these spaces with little plaza areas in between buildings, and then opening things up a little bit more in the scheme to allow for more of a civic park to occur in and around the house. Similarly, we're locating the rec center at the very end, but we're stretching it out a little bit more from a north to south direction, with the pool consistently being behind the rec center and adjacent to the homestead. And here you kind of get another aerial picture of it. You see this kind of drive that kind of moves through with this series of these parking lots, and then little plaza spaces that sort of form in between. And this is sort of us interpreting what we might do with the homestead a little bit differently. And I should mention too that we also have some allocations for So in this one, we wanted to kind of give you more of an experience as you move through the site, not just kind of arc around the site in one particular motion, but actually sort of provide you with a little bit more of kind of a zigzag approach through the site. And we also wanted to explore changing up the location of the rec center. And what we did is we decided to pull the library out to be more front and center, to have more of a public front along the Stein Bar. And conversely, we moved the rec center closer to the back of the site to give it a little bit more privacy and actually push the pool down into the lower part of the site. So in this scenario, you would actually come in up high at the upper level of the rec center and then descend down in the building and actually come out of the pool. If people wanted to go directly to the pool, you would actually kind of drive around the site, come down below, and you have a separate entry that would allow you to come straight in through a pool house, all surrounded kind of by the forest around you, and then the terrain that kind of rises up. Here you see kind of an aerial view of that. You see the drive kind of moving through here. The amphitheater switches spots and it actually potentially becomes more of the front side. Another angle showing the library, police station, and city hall, and the rec center there at the back. So this is just a few images of how we might start to think about how you move in between the buildings and how you move from your car onto sidewalks, what some of these public spaces might start to look like. What we're thinking of is always having hardscape, plants, but also potentially the idea of having some covered walkways in places to give you some relief from the sun in the middle of the summer. The inclusion of places of respite underneath tree canopies, and as we said before, maybe some idea of where you could have some small amphitheaters to experience some outdoor entertainment. Okay. So we're going to come back to those three visual concepts.
Yep. Just summarizing again, just reminding you, these are the three diagrams of the differences between the three major concepts that we just described. And if you have questions or comments about these, use your Mentimeter, your app, and post those. We're going to give you a chance here in a second to vote on these, but we'll tell you about that in just a second. Now, one question that many people have is, how much is this going to cost? Well, that's our next slide. All right, I'm sorry. You want to do this question first? We'll get to that in just a second. Hold on to that. Who would explain this?
We'd like to know what you like or don't like about the schemes that you saw. We are going to ask you at the end of the evening, after you have a chance to visit all of the boards and get all of your questions answered, which one you prefer. And that really is one of the most important questions we can ask of you tonight, to give us some direction on that. So if you could post what you like or don't like up here, that'll start to give us some ideas. Thank you.
But wait, there is opportunity, we kind of skipped that, there is opportunity for other functions and facilities on this site, such as a coffee shop, or trails may be connected to this site, probably will. So there's an opportunity for a bike rental and some other support facilities like that. So it has the intent and ability, opportunity to be a multi-use campus. Okay, any other questions or comments that you like or do not like particularly about anything we've explained so far? Put your question on, use your app. Yeah.
Is there an indoor pool?
Well, that is a good question. There is an indoor pool. That is planned. I'll show you that here in a second in our budget numbers. There is. So let me get to that in a second. Any other comments or likes, dislikes about any of those three schemes that you want to register?
Back.
Okay.
Back.
If you have questions, put them on use your Mentimeter app.
As an EE, you're an EE, higher privacy, correct?
Yes, architect engineer.
Yes.
Okay. Where are you, what percentage are you at in your design phase?
This is called master planning. So we really have not started design of the buildings themselves. We don't know what they look like in detail.
We don't know what the buildings look like or what the final This is just placeholders for where the buildings will be located.
Correct. That's right. I'll show you that in just a second. We have a timeline to show you, okay? I'll show you that in just a second.
Good, move on.
All right,
Move on.
let's finish this. Let's go to,
That's good, we got some really good
okay,
comments.
got some good responses, some good comments.
Or like these things, the feelings, B seems disjointed, want places to eat, not fast food. C seems to be most visually appealing, B looks like it could easily become congested. C as a first option, lots of parking, A as a second option, not enough parking, plan C seems best, so we're hearing some themes there, but as you can see, some responses. So those are fantastic. What's great about this is that we do have a site, project website, we didn't talk about that earlier, it's on your card, and all of your comments, because these are public comments, we want to put these on that website and give others that were unable to attend some access to what you guys are saying tonight. So thank you. You will get a chance to see all of these.
Okay.
Good comments. All right. Yeah, next. The budget slide. Or is it after this one? Okay, sorry. Timeline, somebody was asking about that. The blue bar at the top, if you can see that, is the master plan process. The red line down through there is where we are today. And that dot on that red line is this meeting. There will be other community meetings coming up in the not too distant future, probably after the holidays and after the first of the year. We're going to complete the master plan shortly with your input and input from the steering committee and from the building committee that Teresa introduced to you. There will be a recommendation made to aldermen on which scheme is the best one going forward. From that, we will then start a design phase, which is the second blue bar right there. That's when we're going to actually design the buildings to a point where the city can have renderings and information that you folks will need going forward to a potential that aldermen have not formally done this yet, but likely to be a no-tax bond issue in April on the ballot. So to get ready for that, we're going to do some initial design, some conceptual stuff to get some renderings, some floor plans, so that you folks will know what that design is going to be looking like as it goes forward. Then after that, and the yellow bar there, by the way, is the information campaign or process of getting you folks in your community informed as to what it is going to be built with that no-tax bond issue and other funding that may be as part of the process as well. So then after that, we will finish the design process, do the bid documents and so forth, bidding and construction. So you folks can see the timeline as that goes forward. So that kind of explains how we are going forward and where we are in that process. Let's go to the next slide. In terms of That's essentially correct, yes. At least to the end of the master plan, right? That's right.
You're willing to sign a document that says that?
We've already done that, yes. If you have other questions, please put those on your Mentimeter app, okay? And we'll get to those. Go to the budget slide. All right, here's part of your question. If you can read this, the key is there are 4 or 5 different buildings. The library is already funded. The city will not be paying for the library. You folks as county residents are paying for the library system, of course. That was passed 2 years ago, Prop L. That is improving and building new libraries throughout the Kansas City metro, or I should say suburban area for the most part, for the Mid-Continent Public Library System. And that totals, phase 1 anyway, is about 37 to 41 million to build a city hall police station and a rec center and and to develop that site with some of the park features that we've talked about. The funding for the project, you see down here, from that bond issue, no tax increase. By the way, the city wants to really emphasize that. Zero tax increase.
We're not gonna pay for it.
Could be. In the range of 32 to 39, funding potential. Other partners, which the city is working on. There could be some other folks who come in to partner with the city and bring some money into that. So potential funding could be in that same range, 37, maybe as high as 45, 46. So that is working out. The city will have the funds to build this first phase of the project. Okay, so, and if you have questions about that, please use your app. Okay, next slide. Okay, do you want to explain this question?
Real quick too, if you aren't using the app, we do have post-it notes that we can collect your questions from. That is what our individual stations are for too, so we can address you one-on-one if you have specific questions. We have business cards that you can grab and contact us after this meeting. And the goal would be to take, because we're obviously not going to get to all these questions today, the goal is to take those, create a frequently asked questions sheet that then we can email you to you if you provide your email to us tonight, have on the website, and share that out publicly so we get all those questions answered, but get you out of here in a timely manner tonight. All right, folks, this is it. This is their chance. We'd like you to get up and out of your chairs, come on over to the stations. We do encourage you to respond digitally, but if you don't want to, that's fine. And then post to the boards if you want to.
And weigh in on this question too, please.
Yep, I have concealed the results. So at 7:20, we're going to reveal the results of the survey in essence. But please do cast your votes. And if you want to cast a vote specifically to answer this question, hand us the post-it notes directly, or post them to that table right there in the center, and then we'll count those too. And in case you didn't get the message on the way in, your ticket to getting entered into the water bill credit is getting your passport stamped, and then filling out the information on the back, and we'll be collecting those on your way out the door. I think we'll just have people standing around and collecting.